Today, we want to show you how we do and communicate decisions in a very early stage startup among founders and the first employees. And we want to show you how we set up our processes for the months to come. And it is important to understand, before we dive into that, how we think about decision making and why it is important to us. And spoiler alert, every decision we make, or every important decision we make, is written down with its pros and cons, and also its respective weight assigned by each founder with some explanatory comments. And the why behind writing down our decisions is that transparency among us founders is an intrinsic value for us. Using transparency to make and document decisions allows us to reach the best decisions fastest and be able to revisit the arguments and or the weights if anything changes. But we don't just do it for us. We also think that it is one of the most scalable ways of onboarding new employees on strategic decisions and discussions they might have, so that we don't have to have the same conversation with every employee, but it is very easy for them to dive into a certain decision and maybe even help us to revisit and change it if we haven't thought of something, since all the arguments and weights are transparent. Now let me show you how we actually do it. Okay, so what you see here is our decision log. It is possible for everyone to revisit it, short explanation on why we have it, and we have created a template. Let's click on that template button here, and then a new page is automatically opened. We are in it, and we have a pre-filled section about the background of a certain decision, right? Why are we even discussing this? You have the outcome, what is the decision? You have all the arguments, pros and cons listed down. The pros are voting in one direction, and you have the other votes voting in the other direction, as usually a decision is made between two alternatives. Of course, it might get a little bit trickier when there are more than two alternatives. Then there's a weight assigned. Actually, we have a weight for each founder and a comment for each founder. We have a view as well, which is filtered by just the weights and comments of each founder, so we are not getting biased by each other's arguments and the weights while we are distributing our own. Okay, let's dive in. So, and what you see here are certain topics. Some we have blurred, some not, on whatever big and important decisions we had. And now I want to show you how we did some of them. So despite doing nice photos and some whiteboard sessions as well in the middle of the evening to discuss some of the largest strategic topic at hand, how do we actually go about making the decision? So although it is all blurred, promises are kept that it follows exactly the template I've shown you before. And we simply list all of the arguments which come to our mind in as structured way as possible from different perspectives on the left, and give it a rating from -10 to +10. We mostly had decisions which are one route against the second alternative, right? Giving or assigning positive numbers contributes to one direction, and assigning negative numbers contributes to the other direction. So we both have weights. We try to use different views where we only see our own ratings in the beginning, so that we don't bias each other by seeing how the other person has voted on certain arguments. And only once we are done and probably commented on arguments, we go in the merged table view and see where are we aligned, where aren't we, and discuss especially those points, right? So you see here is a big difference on something where I weighted it very highly and Emil rated it as less important. So these are the things we would discuss. Also this argument, it makes it thus very easy to see where we are aligned and where we aren't. And then we simply explain and discuss as long as we reach a consensual agreement, then we just look at the sum of the tables so that we see, is it a positive outcome which votes for one direction, or is it a negative outcome? And we see in total anywhere we are pretty aligned on what the outcome for this decision should be. Thus, actually, there isn't even much to discuss, right? So it can also save a huge amount of time. You might think it is an overhead to write all of that down, but writing all of that down maybe takes, depending on how long you have to discuss, 15 to 30 minutes. And if you see that the alignment is already there, you don't have to spend any more time discussing, right? We can actually even jump over the points where we have a bigger disalignment. Not only do we vote for the same decision, but we also do it with the same strength, let's say, of the decision. So not only do we think, though, that this is the best, most objective and fastest way for us to reach the best decisions, but we also think that there's a scalable component in onboarding or having strategic discussions with your employees as well, because the questions we ask ourselves, we very much assume that future employees will have the very same questions, and it will make it very easy for each and every one of them to first understand why we are doing things a certain way, and secondly, it makes it very easy to talk to us and improve the ways we are doing things, because it is very clear if we have missed a certain point, a certain pro, a certain con. And it is also very clear if there might be a case for weighting things differently. So it makes the discussion one might have with other people very objective, pushed into either there is an argument missing and we have to add one, or we need to change our view on the strength of a certain point. And these are the dimensions we can talk with each other about. So to sum it up, why are we writing down all the important decisions in a decision log? On the one hand, we think it is very beneficial for the founders. It is the most structured, fastest way to reach the best decisions where the objective argument wins. And secondly, it scales employee onboarding and strategic discussions with employees where everybody can easily contribute arguments and discuss whether a certain one should be weighted differently than we have assumed.